everybody, it's Kevra. That's me, I'm Kevra, and oh my gosh, they just released 7 whole new seconds of Breath of the Wild 2 footage. Everybody's talking about it, and I am not going to talk about it. It was 7 seconds. Let's settle down here, people. I don't want to be one of those people who just talks about something as simple as 7 seconds of new footage. Okay, I have some theories. Right now, everyone is talking about the update Nintendo just posted where the Breath of the Wild sequel has gotten pushed back into spring 2023. Personally, I don't really see this as big news because I think most of us assumed that it had a really good chance of getting pushed back into 2023, considering the fact that they used the word aiming for 2022, along with the fact that almost every 3D Zelda game ever made has gotten delayed. The other thing that people are bringing up is that weird squiggly line thing on the back of Link's hand. That looks like the same squiggly line language we see above Ganondorf in that first trailer, which means they're somehow connected. Again, no surprise there. And then the one other thing that I see a lot of people talking about is the fact that the Master Sword appears to be broken, which again doesn't surprise me at all because it seemed very unlikely we were going to have the Master Sword at the start of this new game, which means we would either have to lose it or it would have to break. So yeah, all the things that I just mentioned, I don't want to talk about. What I want to talk about is Link's fingernails. You just clicked off this video, didn't you? You sat there really angry, being like, seriously guy, fingernails, cuticles. That's what you want to talk about. Yeah. Now, I know that sounds stupid, but I promise this is going somewhere. And let's face it, ever since E3 last year, you've been curious about what the deal with his arm is. Because we know both his arm and the Master Sword gets grabbed by Malice. It also looks like whatever he's wearing on his arm was whatever that green glowing hand above Ganondorf was wearing. It also seems like that green glowing hand grabs either his arm or Zelda's arm. It appears like his arm now acts as the Sheikah Slate and can do magical weird stuff. And lastly, oh yeah, his entire arm is like dark and blackened and it kind of looks like it's spreading, almost like an infection. And now we include the fingernails, which kind of look like Ganondorf's fingernails. Now that dark decayed skin tone also does look like a monk, but I looked up a bunch of pictures and it doesn't look like any of the monks have fingernails. Mr. Green Glowing Hand guy has some really long fingernails and maybe has something to do with that. And we do see Link's hand glow green at times. But aesthetically, it looks a lot more like Ganondorf's hand because it has shorter fingernails and because it's black, decrepit, and looks like it's dying. But because there is this uncanny resemblance to Ganondorf, I feel like there's a connection. And my personal theory, the reason why it looks like an infection that's spreading throughout Link's body, and the reason it looks like Ganondorf's arm, is because that's how Ganondorf comes back to a certain extent. I'm not saying he possesses Link's body or anything like that, but think about that old cliche in movies and TV shows where a witch steals someone's youth so they can stay youthful forever. So whenever the Malice grabs onto Link's arm, it's some version of that where basically the youth or life force is being sucked out of Link, but maybe that thing around his arm is what's preventing it from spreading. And that's how we go from zombie Ganondorf to that familiar looking Ganondorf we all know. Personally, I hope that's not true because I think a zombie Ganondorf is way cooler than just a regular Ganondorf. Or what would be really cool is if they do some hybrid where it's like he's half like regular Ganondorf and half zombie. Okay, just to clarify, I know he's not an actual zombie. I'm not trying to say that he's like dead or has come back from the dead or anything like that. The dude does not look well. Now there's one other theory I have about the fingernails, and this could be completely wrong, but maybe it's a passage of time. We're pretty sure that the game starts underground where they discover Ganondorf's body. This triggers the raising of the castle and the islands, and then you assume Link would just go out on an adventure right afterwards, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he gets stuck down there and isn't discovered for several years and goes into kind of a stasis coma-like situation. That's why his hair is long, that's why his fingernails are long, because he's been down there for such a long time. He hasn't aged, you know, it's the same kind of situation where he was in the Shrine of Resurrection for 100 years. Didn't age a day, but he came out feeling super healed. And honestly, I'm really rooting for that because I want to see a very different Hyrule than what we saw in the last game. I mean, my favorite part of Breath of the Wild was exploring Hyrule and slowly discovering all the different regions. So I really hope that they do something to make the time pass and give us something that really feels a lot different than the Hyrule we explored in the original Breath of the Wild game. So those are my 2 theories about fingernails. Maybe they're both true, maybe neither one are true. But those are just some ideas that I had about that. Now the last thing that I want to talk about before we end this is the Master Sword. Yeah, I know, I said I wasn't going to talk about the Master Sword, but to be fair, I lied about that. So even though I wasn't surprised by the fact that the Master Sword seems to be in ruins, I do wonder what that means for Fi, Demise, and Ganondorf. Fi is the most obvious one. We all know that she lives in the sword. She is a part of the sword. She basically is the Master Sword. And last year, I even posted that I hope that whenever the Malice hits the Master Sword, Fi somehow gets corrupted and we get an evil version of Fi. That probably doesn't happen, but I think that would be so cool. That being said, like Ganondorf, she's clearly seen better days. But if you remember Skyward Sword, she's not the only one who goes into the Master Sword. Demise also gets absorbed into the Master Sword. Now, it wasn't like the full Demise, it was probably more like the essence of Demise. But still, if the Malice somehow accessed that essence of Demise, or somehow released the essence of Demise, I don't know what kind of consequences that could have, but it could do something really cool. And that's where Ganondorf comes into play, because if the essence of Demise has been destroyed, that probably means they need the essence of something very similar to get absorbed into the sword, which means this could be Ganondorf's actual demise. This game could potentially end with Link going into one big final battle with Ganondorf, the King of Evil, and at the end of that battle, Ganondorf gets absorbed into the Master Sword to once again complete it. Personally, that is something I would absolutely love because you could always bring him back in a different timeline, or B, you could just do a different story earlier in the timeline, but then you can also finally end his saga and bring like the next reincarnation of Demise and Ganondorf. Well, there you go, guys. I took 7 seconds of footage and turned it into a 7-minute video. If you like that video, go ahead and give it a like. If you dislike the video, give it a dislike. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe because I will very likely be doing other Breath of the Wild 2 videos whenever we get new trailers, whenever we get a new release date, or just whenever I feel like doing it. And if you like Zelda content in general, and if you love the idea of it getting adapted into either a movie or a television show, go ahead and check out this trailer right here. I've been working on a project for about 3 years now, almost 4 years now. I wrote everything, I finished writing everything about a year ago. It's 17 episodes long. I, keep tinkering with it here and there. It's going to come out when it comes out. I don't know. I keep telling people it's going to come out soon, but I honestly can't tell you when it's going to come out. But if you want to check that out, and if you want to subscribe so you get notified whenever it finally does, again, link up in the corner, probably gone now. Other than that, tell me what you think about, my theories for this video. Do you agree with the fingernails? Do you agree with the stuff I said about the Master Sword? Do you have your own theories? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'll catch you later.